We are moving on to an informational item, MIGreenPower. Dr. Swift.
Yes, thank you, Madam President and trustees. As Chair Carrero noted, this item was reviewed on Friday by Finance Committee in our ongoing effort to recognize, respond, and take action regarding environmental sustainability and the climate crisis that we face. We brought forward an information item for board discussion. Mr. Lauzzana is joining us virtually this evening to share the basics of this possibility. Trustees, my team and I will listen closely. We will take careful note of all of your questions because we want to, as an information item, ensure that we are sharing and then updating accurate information based on your discussion. Mr. Lauzzana.
Thank you, Dr. Swift. Good evening, Board of Education, President Lazarus, and Ann Arbor Public Schools community. I have a short slide deck that'll hopefully help explain the opportunity here with the MIGreenPower program. So again, good evening, everyone. I'm going to begin with kind of an overview of how generally people look at carbon emissions and carbon equivalent emissions. This rubric or methodology is common in the environmental sustainability community, and they really looks at three scopes of emissions. Scope 1, that's the green in the middle of this diagram. That's the direct emissions associated with the operations of, in our case, a school district. So that would be things like burning of natural gas in our buildings for heating or hot water or for cooking, or things like the diesel emissions associated with our busing fleet. Scope 2 emissions are those emissions associated with any purchased energy. In our case, the energy that we purchase is coming from offsite is electricity. And that's our Scope 2 emissions. And then Scope 3 emissions is kind of everything else. It's everything from office supplies to waste management, the commuting miles of our staff, any sort of outsourced activities like our custodial emissions associated with our custodial staff and their activities. So those are the general scopes of carbon emissions that people think about. And what the MIGreenPower program offers is an opportunity for the school district to pretty drastically reduce our Scope 2 emissions by purchasing our electricity, not from coal and natural gas fired power plants, but from DTE owned Michigan-based wind and solar generation facilities. And this is just taking a look at the trends over time. This is a projection from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and it's looking at the costs of different generation sources. And you can see the yellow and the blue line at the bottom there have been dropping dramatically and are projected to continue to drop. And that's the yellow being utility scale solar and the blue being onshore wind power. And natural gas is the brown line that intersects the yellow line, and that cost is projected to increase over time. And coal and nuclear at the top in black and red being the most expensive sources at this time. And if we were to go back in time, we would see the solar and the wind being more costly than coal and nuclear. But we've made great advances with these technologies, and they're currently actually cheaper to construct and operate new capacity with those technologies. So DTE developed MIGreenPower, and it began in 2017 as a voluntary green energy program to help customers meet sustainability goals by offering customers such as AAPS and much larger customers the opportunity to buy renewable energy with Michigan-based assets. And the program is flexible in that the buy-in windows, if you will, are in 5-year increments, offering customers the opportunity to commit to 5, 10, 15, or 20 years, and in increments of 5% up to 85% of their total annual load. And I'll get into this a little bit in slides ahead, but the 85% is because based on the renewable portfolio standard that is mandated in the state of Michigan by 2025, 15% of all electricity providers in the state of Michigan, including DTE Energy and Consumers Energy, 15% of that is required to be from renewable sources already. So the 85% allows you the 85 plus the 15 to get to 100% should an organization choose to do so. And this is just a quick look at what that looks like. These are on the left is a large Isabella wind installation, and that installation owned by DTE is generating enough power for about 120,000 homes. And you can see a large solar array installation on the right. That's enough to power about 21,000 homes. These are very, very large installations, and that is the kind of generation asset, electricity generation asset that the district could potentially buy into, if you will, through this program. It works kind of like this. On the bottom in gray is kind of the traditional arrangement. Oil and other fossil fuels are burned in a power plant. They're transmitted to the transmission grid, and then they come to your house or your business. With a program like this, there is a unit or a metric, a measurement called a renewable energy credit or certificate, and that's generated at these facilities, and the district is essentially buying those renewable energy certificates as we're purchasing electricity through the program, assuring us that we are purchasing the greenness or the renewableness of the electricity that we're consuming. And so the proposal before us looks at some math here. So the district, give or take, in an average year, consumes approximately 30,000 megawatt hours of electricity. So that's the total in 1 year that the district consumes, 30,000 megawatt hours. On the first line there, you can see the state of Michigan renewable energy portfolio standard. That's the 15% that's state mandated for DTE to already generate from renewable energy. And that accounts for 4,500 megawatt hours. We have been putting in some solar in APS, and our calculation is that solar by the end of this year, when we put in the last couple board approved installations, will generate about 6% of our load, or about 1,800 megawatt hours. Through a MIGreenPower purchase, we could buy the other 80%, or 24,000 megawatt hours, getting us to just over the 30,000 megawatt hours annually, to about 101% of our load would be carried by wind and solar generated electricity, greatly reducing those scope 2 emissions for the district dramatically. This 30,000, sometimes this puts it in perspective for people. 30,000 megawatt hours is approximately equivalent to, in 1 year, that's 32 million miles driven by the average car. This is hard to get my head around. Or 14 million pounds of coal burned. That seems like a very big pile of coal to me. 2,000 tree seedlings grown for 10 years, or the equivalent carbon sequestration of 15,000 acres of US forest, or the electricity consumed by 2,500 average homes. So this chart kind of illustrates what participation in this program could potentially do for the school district. So the vertical axis is our CO2 emissions, and the horizontal axis is time. And you can see we installed our first, so the red line dips down just a little bit. That's the installation of solar at Patton Gill Elementary School. That was our first solar installation. And then the already approved solar installations would get that's the 6% reduction from those first solar arrays. And here is potentially the 80% reduction from participating in MIGreenPower. That would happen towards the end of 2024. And then additional solar installations could potentially be completed by the school district, further taking us into that carbon positive or that restorative space where we're actually doing, we don't have zero impact on the environment. When we reach this line, we actually have a positive impact on the environment. So that kind of looks at the carbon emissions. This is again that scope 2 emissions for the purchased electricity. So this is a financial projection. I know there's a lot on this slide, so I'll just kind of work through it. Here is 2024. That's when the assets, if the district were to sign up for this program, in the next couple of months, DTE would take that commitment from the school district and go literally invest and build new generation assets to support our needs. The program is structured with the first column here is a subscription fee. It's $52 per megawatt hour. That is capped in the regulations that surround this program. This fee could go down over time, but currently this is a conservative projection. So we're showing the fee at its maximum $52 per megawatt hour here. And there's also an associated credit. So there's a charge here and then there's a credit. And so you can see in year 1, the credit is essentially the same as the charge. In year 2, the credit is a little bit less than the charge. And so, and then this is the net difference between the credit and the subscription fee. This is our gross load, that 30,000 megawatt hours. And 80% of that is 24,000. And so you can see in years 1, 2, and 3, it's about $11,000, $12,000 additional costs for the school district. Then the number is kind of reverse, where the credit exceeds the fee by $1.63 per megawatt hour, and it's actually roughly $40,000 cheaper for the school district. And over that first 5-year subscription period, which again, the program is structured such that you can sign up for these 5-year blocks, the net savings would be $37,000. And you can see the savings if the district were to enter longer contracts. Just as a point of reference, our annual electricity cost is roughly $2.5 million annually. And just as another point of reference here, these are some of the participating Southeast Michigan organizations. You can see both Ford and General Motors are subscribers to the program, Henry Ford Health System, Bedrock Detroit, the state of Michigan, HAP, University of Michigan, and Washtenaw Community College, amongst others. And I think that's my last slide. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I would like to say to our public, please reach out. This was an informational. You can watch it on our YouTube channel or our CTN channel. And please reach out and let us know your input, and we'd like to hear it.